Hey, my lovers, and especially my book lovers, welcome to the review for DeeVa's Book Club on Facebook. We are going to review Jay-Z Made in America. It is written by Michael Eric Dyson. So we're going to review that book. Thanks so much for showing up. This is the relationship platform. So wherever you get your podcast, please know that you can tune in to the Ask DeeVa podcast. We can accept questions from wherever you want to send them from relationship-wise by sending it in an email. So you can send an email, sayitwithdtv@gmail.com. You can send that over, or you can DM me on Twitter or on Instagram, Mz DeeVa, the number 4YOU, or go directly on Instagram to the Ask DeeVa page, directly on Facebook to the Ask DeeVa page, AskDeeva, and you can send your relationship questions in the messages in the DM as well. All right, so let's do a little ad, and then we're going to get right into the book review. So you can follow me on social media at Mz DeeVa for you. That is my handle on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Mz DeeVa, the number 4YOU. You also can go to the Facebook page, hashtag AskDeeva. You can also find that page on Instagram, hashtag AskDeeva. For all things DeeVa, go to askdeeva.onuniverse.com. Tell a friend to tell another friend to tune in to the Ask DeeVa show. Thanks so much, lovers. I appreciate you guys for doing that and making sure that you are sharing about the podcast available wherever you listen to your podcast at, okay? So I chose this book right here for the month of December. So those of us that have been reading it and maybe you're just now picking it up, I know some people joined the book club in the middle of the month, so you're just now jumping on, no worries. Shout out to Sonia, the president of DeeVa's Book Club, as she is always keeping it busy, giving you book suggestions every day, as well as she has an upcoming book for January that she's going to suggest for the book of the month, and we're going to read that. And feel free to jump on board if you want to share a book and actually submit a video and go live on the book club page for your book review. We can talk to you about that. Just contact Sonia. She will message you back, okay? So you can find her, I am Sonia Grace, on social media, okay? Alrighty, so I chose the Audible app account for listening to the Jay-Z Made in America book. I also have Tidal, so I added a copy of it onto my Kindle app and just stayed with my phone as I was traveling for the Thanksgiving, a little before Thanksgiving and during Thanksgiving and Christmas holidays. It helped me with my long flights get through by having it available on all the platforms. Download it on Audible, download it on Kindle, and also having all the songs that I felt were necessary to go back and listen to and research lyrics. I had Tidal and had some downloads on there as well. So it was great for traveling. It recommend all those apps and methods for reading your books. I do. So, the app methods were imperative for me, I said, as using the Tidal app while listening to the book via the AirPods enhances my experience per chapter and throughout the teaching of Jay-Z by Professor and author Michael Eric Dyson. So Dyson teaches a course at Georgetown on Jay-Z, and Jay-Z is one of my favorite of hip-hop and business moguls, so I immediately wanted this book. For those of you who follow me, then you probably already know that. Just watching him do, it's just like having a mentor in front of you with the way that he maneuvers business-wise, as well as always taking care of the community, not the way that people like to criticize that people should do things. Like, he's just always making moves, and it's always for our good. And it's definitely a model that if you think he's not doing enough for your community, you could take his same model, set up shop, and do even better right there directly, because he's only one person. So jump on board. Feel free to jump on board and do for your community versus criticize, right? So I like looking at this business mogul. He also became the first billionaire in hip hop, yet is known for so much more. This more being a lot of what the author is going to bring to the light. So I highlighted some special parts for me. I'm going to read the intro later, but I brought from the intro these thoughts. Dyson shares that his reason for teaching hip-hop as a college course is that it is not only fascinating, but also has a lot to teach us about America, about race, class, and gender. Conservatives approach him often with their lack of approval of hip-hop lectures and courses that he teaches, so that's always a sign for me. Yep, he's right on point, especially when they get upset, right? So I love how he says conservatives. I'm just going to say the racists of white America. You know how I do things here. So then Dyson reminds us that T.I., Meek Mill, and Cardi B are all hip-hop artists who are similar to Jay-Z in speaking out on social injustice. That's another thing, again, that's very powerful. Part of seeing this man as a mentor is his ability to stand up and say what needs to be said without the whole, he just does it in his way, and then he throws it into lyrics, and then he makes himself involved but doesn't have to have a whole show about his involvement. I'm speaking of, hearing about contributing to helping the protesters when the arrests were happening during the Black Lives Matter, right? So just little bitty things that you go, God, this guy's always on top of seeing a better way of doing things and making sure that we are involved and our voices are heard by just being the platform, because he has the stage to do that and the platform to do that, so he can be the voice that they're going to ignore our little vents on Facebook and Twitter. That could be our voice for us. So I don't care where and how they listen, just as long as someone can make them listen, right? So I'm going to read from that section again, like I said, shortly on the introduction. Love something that's mentioned about his connection with Nipsey Hussle in the book as well. So there's so much you're going to be able to get from this book. I want to highlight this for the review for chapter 1. So for me, at start was the Walter McDougall quote, "Hustling is the center motif of the American history, the dominant measure of the American character," end quote. This chapter talks of key points on how Americans are by nature hustlers. Americans have more access and freedom to carry out ambitions, goals, etc. than many, many people across the lands, right? So Jay-Z lyrics he shared in the book, I'm the definition of it. He says, I'm the definition of it, hustling. He's the definition of hustling. And I love to see that he's been able to see both sides of it and be able to do something positive with that hustling mentality. Like you always see different people in your community and like, wow, you know what? He's good at hustling what he does, but it's a negative way that he's doing that. If he would take all that skill and do it in a positive way. So it's good to see that unfold when watching the career that is Jay-Z, right? The author continues on with, there are two sides of hustling, good and bad, according to author and Professor Dyson. It's about the form the hustling takes place in and the moral environment in which it takes root and flourishes. So to be a dreamer, go-getter, the author says, a hard worker, generous giver, a goal setter who follows through are my thoughts. I can relate to and appreciate that level of hustling, and I'm sure many of you can, right? And hey, his wife, another of my faves, Beyonce, sang it best for me. A diva is a female version of a hustler. Like, people see the word diva in a very negative light. So when they see my name, D, was combined with the VA for diva, they're like, oh, so you're a diva, you're difficult to work with. No, bruh. No, what this definition of a diva is the female version of a hustler, like always out there doing what the white American hustler does every day. Always out there trying to make a difference, follow through, set goals, reach the next level, invest. Just those are the things that make diva, right? We'll talk about all those things on another show. So the author also explores in this chapter what hustling has done to Black America. Black hustle has been scorned for so many years, the author says. Slavery saw the start of the Black hustle, start of social groups and organizations to simply enjoy life outside of working for the man is how my highlight and what I got from that. So years later, the struggle to survive will bring running numbers, gambling, drug dealing. All of that happened after slavery, all in pursuit of making enough money to actually feel and live this hyped up American dream that is often only for just a select few. So you can see that the mind and the motivation behind the hustle was to just see a come up and to see a way out of the Black American setback that was trying to be put in place and say, look, I want to have that also. I want to have that white American dream. And if the doors don't open, whoops, sometimes people take that negative route. So again, to be Jay-Z, to have taken the negative route and the drug dealing and the drug sales, but then to turn life around and to become the business mogul and the hip hop legend that he is today, right? I love this that the author writes. He says, quote, he, Jay-Z, sketches verbal blueprints that map the black experience onto American rhetoric, end quote. Love that. That part right there. Jay-Z sketches verbal blueprints that map the black experience onto American rhetoric. If you're trying to get anything from understanding, you're going to have to go back and listen to the lyrics. Like, you just hear it and you'll have like a wake-up call. I also think that it's awesome that he's able to present lyrics that you'll see, you don't have to, but you probably will see 3 or 4 different versions of what he's trying to say when you hear the lyrics. That's a genius to me, right? So then the author mentions in the song Can I Live, the Blight Hustler, to the song Izzo, the Bright Hustler, and kind of talks about the differences there, and we'll share some lyrics on that in a few. And the chapter adds the necessary knowledge of hustling currently happening in politics, terms Trump America's heartless hustler. That's what's said, and I had to highlight that part in chapter 1, that Trump is America's heartless hustler. Strong. Love that, though. Jay-Z says to David Letterman, the author says, in 2018, discussion of Donald Trump is forcing people to have a conversation and band together and work together. Jay-Z also says Trump is bringing out an ugly side of America that we wanted to believe is gone. He adds, we still got to deal with it. We have to have tough conversations, talk about the N-word, talk about why white men are so privileged in this country, end quote. And I have to agree with Jay-Z 155% on that. Trump did not start racism. He just brought out that ugly side, right? And also there's something else that in bringing that out, there's a way to solve that. And we're kind of right there with the impeachment of Donald Trump and hopefully seeing the solution to that in the next few weeks. But going back to highlight from the book, do you guys remember Trump's racist remarks regarding Africans when he literally said that folks are coming over from shithole countries? You guys remember that quotation? Trump, shithole countries, end quote. So that was his words, not mine, right? So we can't forget that. So the author shares that Jay-Z responded to that from Donald Trump that he said, and he responded on CNN, quote, it's disappointing and hurtful, but this has been going on. This is how people talk behind closed doors. Because once you drive racists into hiding, all other closet racists just run back into the hole. You haven't fixed anything. The author also shares that Jay-Z's comments regarding rap battles, and he says that Jay-Z responded, it's wrestling. So I want to talk about that for a minute. So I love that he says, sorry to jump you guys. So let's go back for just a moment. So I'm sorry about that. So I was jumping in my notes. So you got what he said in response to Trump and the shithole comments. I will say Jay-Z's quote again. It's disappointing and hurtful, but this has been going on. This is how people talk behind closed doors. Once you drive racists into hiding, all other closet racists just run back into the hole. You haven't fixed anything, right? So again, a lot of that happening, his words then, but a lot of so much happening right now that you're going to have to pay a lot. You're going to watch racism have its privileged hand or not in regards to impeachment. That's DeeVa's thoughts on that. So then we go on to say another thing I wanted to talk about from the book, how the author shares Jay-Z comments regarding rap battles, and he says that Jay-Z responds and says it's wrestling. So there's this diss that happens that the author talks about where 50 Cent disses Jay-Z, and then Jay-Z is at an event and you see the two together. I think it was one of the award shows, and you see them both entering the event. He sees 50, he walks over to him. They actually just bump fists, bump, that friendly kind of encounter. And then, Jay-Z kind of makes a remark to him, not a quotation, just paraphrase, that, I'm going to get you. And then he gets him with his diss reply. Just when I was reading that whole section regarding that, my thoughts were, this is not to say, no one likes to hear that wrestling is fake. Some wrestling fans get very offensive, but you get, because you're grown, you understand what Jay-Z is saying. So these rap battles, it's wrestling. Do you need anything more from that? So when I was reading that in the book over the 2019 holidays, it took me to my usual response with that when I was looking at Nick Cannon dissing Eminem and Eminem just responding in the tweet. And then I just thought of Jay-Z's words. It's wrestling. It's wrestling. But I love how the author highlights that sadly he's sharing that what is a light beef in the studios with the rappers, may just be wrestling and just, a way to, maybe it's marketing or whatever it is. It can turn violent and very dangerous in the streets because the fans become too serious about it in the streets. And so they end up taking it and coming at it in a different level. So it can get a little nasty. So there's the danger of that when it comes to people who don't understand. So if you're around those individuals and you're listening to this breakdown, then you do need to share that with them and definitely share his quote. It's wrestling. Calm down. Yes, diss, but don't kill, right? All right. So, chapter 2 highlights a quote from the lyrics, I paint pictures with poetry. So the author shares how Jay-Z is underrated, that he's not celebrated for his gift of metaphor and metonymy, simile, and synecdoche. So he states that Jay-Z is the Robert Frost with the Brooklyn accent, the Rita Dub with the Jesus piece. So I really like that. The references there, right? He describes Jay-Z as an architect of sound. That I love. Like if one were to talk to me 20 years from now and say, when it comes to the music of Jay-Z, I'm definitely going to quote Michael Eric Dyson in the book Jay-Z Made in America and say, I agree, an architect of sound for sure. I love how the author shares the genius that is Jay-Z when he combined the arts with an artist and his lyrics in the Picasso Baby, a performance art film. So if you have never seen that, it's on Tidal. You can watch it on Tidal, but I'm sure it's available on your other viewing platforms possibly. But Picasso Baby, a performance art film, really shows you that genius and that architect of sound and how he combined this thought that he had where the arts and the artists and the drawing and we're the same and we're just drawing our thoughts with lyrics and combined all that. So love Picasso Baby, a performance art film. Great reading the book and then being able to go to Tidal and open that up and see the author kind of unfold his thoughts on that unfold while you're viewing it. So the time is short. I just highlighted these parts that I received from Jay-Z Made in America, but you're going to get so much more when you read it yourself. The book is going to bring you a lot. So I'm going to go over to my Kindle and hope I don't lose you guys. So let's see where we're at with time here. So we have a little bit of time to go into the Kindle. Matter of fact, let's take a water break. How about that? Let's take a water break. So we're going to go, everyone, take a break for a second, and we're going to come back, and we're going to continue on. I'm going to read from inside the book. Okay, I get it. So you do not want to go over to different places all over the place, every podcast app. You don't want to download a bunch of things on your phone, or you just don't have the room on your phone. I solved that for you. So you can go to askdiva.onuniverse.com, go to the podcast page and just click on the various ones, take a listen, or just go to YouTube. Some people don't want to download a bunch of apps. You can just go to YouTube. Ask Diva is on YouTube. So it's various places. I'm trying to make it happen for everyone because you all use different apps. So I understand that. Do what's best for you. I'm going to make the show available on every app that I can. Welcome back, and thanks everybody for being a part of the book review here from Denver, Colorado. It's snowing outside, so perfect day for going through our favorite books, right? So let me go over to the Kindle app. I'm sorry, you guys. And it was the introduction that I wanted to share with you guys, and that should give you a little bit So the author talks about in the introduction, allow me to reintroduce myself. He does a Jay-Z quote, comes up, talks about the the Today Show and how they came to Georgetown University to do a story on Michael Eric Dyson, the author, on his course on the rapper Jay-Z. And so the course garnered quite a bit of national press, he says, and correspondent Craig Melvin, on his first assignment, now one of the show's hosts, had been tasked to explore what we were doing in the class. The author says, we discussed why a figure like Jay-Z belonged in a college curriculum, why some parents of the students were skeptical, and why it was important to parse Jay-Z's lyrics as poetry. Most of the media coverage of the class was positive, but the author says there was also predictable pushback. Conservatives contended that the class was cover for my leftist views, while educational peers wondered about the value of such a course because it didn't fit into the traditional curriculum. So the author goes on to say that he was a grizzled veteran of discussion since by that time he'd been teaching hip-hop at the university for 15 years. I wasn't romanticizing hip-hop, he says, didn't make it a fetish of class identity or an avatar of authentic blackness. Rather, the author says, I approached the genre as a fascinating artistic and cultural expression that had a great deal to teach us about America and race and class and gender as well. By now, this must seem like old because surely there are hundreds of hip-hop classes around the nation in colleges and high schools as well. If not, I'm saying with the author, it definitely should be. So he goes on to say, I'm paraphrasing a lot of the intro, remember, that doesn't mean that most folks in our society are convinced that it is a good thing to study hip-hop in the academy. The troubling resurgence of racism in American culture means that hip-hop is in the spotlight again. Judging by the hate mail that I received, the author says, that he gets for grappling with race in his courses on Jay-Z, Kendrick Lamar, and Beyonce, it is clear to the author that discussions of hip-hop are compelling as ever. In response to the critical moment, artists like T.I., Meek Mill, and Cardi B use their considerable clout and prominent platforms to speak up about social injustice. Teaching Jay-Z, the author says, is especially satisfying. He says, I've taught courses on the murdered actor and rap icon Tupac Shakur at several colleges and universities. I have enthusiastically covered the history of hip-hop culture and music in detail in other courses, but teaching Jay-Z time and again through the years have been more rewarding for me. It also involves a great degree of study with students about a range of issues and ideas from class to gender, race to politics, public housing projects to blackness. Jay-Z provokes reflection on big social and moral concerns, and of course, the author says, artistic ones too. Although it becomes apparent the more that he studies, he's no average bear, that he is quite simply a rhetorical genius whose wordplay and literary skill are non-parallel, and I would agree. The author continues on in the introduction to say, the more that he pores over the lyrics, the more he realizes that he's dealing with an extremely intelligent poet whose work matches the poets I've admired since childhood. My pastor at church used to trade lines of poetry with me from Tennyson and Hughes, Brooks and Yeats. I developed an appreciation for the epic suite of culture that could be condensed into the poetic arts. Jay-Z is capable of doing the same. He can describe street hustling with an artistic verve that is very bit as beautiful and poignant as that of the best canon poets. His rolling or clipped cadences, his dense or simple descriptions, his slow or sped up observations about life unfurl like a thickly knitted quilt cast over shivering bones. I love that. So the author also says, I'm impressed with how effortless Jay-Z makes it all seem. I have grown to appreciate how much work goes into finding the right word, fitting in the right phrase, making just the right allusion. He uses these skills that the rap game he is in trouble, that racism is a persistent ill, and most memorably, that no other rapper has enjoyed comparable longevity at the top. Quoting Jay-Z, there's never been a nigga this good for this long, this hood or this pop, this hot or this strong, with so many different flows. This one's for this song. The next one I switch up, this one I'll get bit up. This one will get bit up. His verse is wildly eclectic. He can, in one instant, the author says, flaunt his own poetic virtue, and in the very next instance, portray the bitter contradictions of zealous belief. Quoting Jay-Z again, he says, I'm from the place where the church is the flakiest, and niggas been praying to God so long they atheists. Love that. And the author says, I've studied and taught. I've learned of Jay's great sense of humor, his sense of irony. That I see that as well, studying him. His love for his craft. The author says he's learned how he uses words to make us feel the crushing heartbreak of a broken home. Quoting Jay-Z, now all the teachers couldn't reach me and my mama couldn't beat me hard enough to match the pain of my pops not seeing me. And the author says in the intro, I listened to Jay-Z. I knew I needed to write a book about the major theme of his art, how he put his words together and why they make sense the way that they do. Jay's prodigious memory and his enormous cool made him that much more appealing. He is one of the few hip-hop artists seen in concert who can bridge the aesthetic gulf between the studio and the stage. The intimacies and implications of a hip-hop song are usually best heard in your headphones. Agreed. It is far more difficult, sorry I had to add that, to catch a song's meaning when it's blurted out by a rapper on stage or when you're dancing at a club and all that. I'm just going to add all that because it's so true. So anyway, going on, moving forward, he says he knew to write about Jay, meant to write about the themes he's taken with to probe his verbal gifts and to grapple with his growing political consciousness. And that is really the greatest part about being a fan and a follower of Jay-Z's legacy, is just seeing him just evolve in so many different ways, right? He says his politics are sometimes subtle, sometimes just a phrase or a bar communicates so much meaning. That's also a powerful gift. Quoting Jay-Z, I arrived on the day Fred Hampton died. Real niggas just multiply. Talking about his day of birth and talking about Fred Hampton. So we're going to talk about that. Give me just one moment. So we're going to check time, and I'm going to share with you where the author takes from the Fred Hampton comment said in the lyrics. So we have a few more minutes to continue that. So in continuing on from, again, quote, Jay-Z, where he says, I arrived on the day Fred Hampton died. Real niggas just multiply. So the author says in the brief scope of this couplet, Jay does a couple of important things here. He identifies with a fallen member of the 60s era Black Panther Party who was unjustly murdered by the Chicago police and the FBI. He also suggests that Hampton's spirit animated the birth of a revolutionary cultural figure like Jay himself. It needs to be clear that Jay-Z is America at its scrappy, brash, irreverent, soulful, and genius best. He is as transcendent a cultural icon as Frank Sinatra, as adventurous a self-made billionaire as Mark Zuckerberg, as gifted a poet as Walt Whitman. When we see Jay-Z, we glimpse the powerful silhouette of American ambition sketched against the canopy of national striving. This is all from the author. He also says in the introduction, when we hear Jay-Z, we listen to the incomparable tongue of American democracy expressed with a people too long held underfoot. Powerful. Then he says, continues on to say, what Jay-Z thinks and believes, what he does and says is the quintessential expression of who we are as a people and a nation. Love that. Again, who better to write this and teach this course than Michael Eric Dyson, right? The half-century mark for Jay-Z is here. He says he has become the genre's first billionaire. He reigns as an elder statesman in a field brimming with artists half his age. He continues to produce relevant rap records that make the charts, and he is charting an artistic and political response to revived racism and renewed hostility to blackness. Jay has logged 30 years as a recording artist. His ideas and the issues he addresses offer us plenty to consider: masculinity and black love, hustling and elections, gentrification and generational wealth, criminal justice reform and neighbor-to-neighbor carnage, visual art and the unbearable whiteness of museum walls, racial injustice and the impact of slavery, the virtues of psychotherapy and its racial misuse. Goodness, that one right there, that part. Then he continues to say American myths of patriotism and empire, police brutality, and the over-medication of black youth, and lots more besides. The author continues to say that the induction of Jay-Z as the first hip-hop artist in the Songwriters Hall of Fame encourages us to explore his poetic gifts, his use of braggadocio and illusion, signifying and double entendre metaphor and homophones, contronyms and metonyms. That signal honor, and his towering stature also invites us to weigh his impact on hip-hop and to consider what his brotherhood with immortal MC, the Notorious B.I.G., his beef with rap legend Nas, and his complicated relationship with rap superstar Drake teach us about ourselves and about hip-hop's reach and limits. Since this is Jay-Z's America, he says, it is important to trace his influence on younger figures like basketball icon LeBron James and fallen rapper Nipsey Hussle, each of whom reflects elements of Jay's vision of hustling. It is instructive how even a few words from Jay bid us to reinterpret leaders like Al Sharpton and Martin Luther King Jr., and to scrutinize geniuses become scoundrels like singer R. Kelly and comedian Bill Cosby. This is good, isn't it? So this is why I said that this book it's everything that you needed to get. One thing that I love that in the intro, I'm going to move on forward to something because this little part that the author put together is exactly it. In a nutshell, Jay-Z. In many ways, the author says, this is Jay-Z's America. It is Jay-Z's America as much as it is Obama's America, or Trump's America, or Martin Luther King's America, or Nancy Pelosi's America, or Maxine Waters' America, or Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez's America. Jay-Z has given this country a language to speak with, ideas to think through, and words to live by. His lyrics have shaped the self-understanding of a culture that grapples daily with racial and social injustice. He is as important a thinker and consequential artist instead of looking at hip-hop or his life through the lens of, say, civil rights or social respectability or mainstream politics. It is time to see America through Jay-Z's eyes. And the author, professor, is able to do that and so much more in Jay-Z Made in America. So I highly encourage you to get a copy of the book. I started out with it on Audible. I now have it on Kindle. I'm definitely going to add it to my collection on paperback. So however way, I really suggest that you get this and definitely take it with you into the start of 2020. You might really grasp a new perspective on a lot of different issues that are going on. So highly recommend it. Go over there to DeeVa's Book Club on Facebook. So that's DeeVa. So DeeVa's Book Club on Facebook. Thanks everybody for taking a listen, and I appreciate all who share.